Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chad Peterson. I'm currently the chair of the Cass County Commission, and welcome to your courthouse. This is your courthouse. It is not mine. This is a building for the public at large. It's to service and do what we need to do to make sure the missions are accomplished with those of us that are here. This is the first time we've done the state of the county. I think you're going to probably read too much into this in terms of that term, but really what it is to inform and educate. The county commission, in my mind, I've been involved in the county for 20 years, 12 years as a volunteer serving on various boards and committees, and then 8 years as a commissioner. And we've not done a good enough job, in my mind, communicating to the public at large what we do, how important the jobs we have here are. And to inform and educate is an incredible thing. It's a needful thing. We need to do that for a number of reasons. First and foremost, what we do is dynamic. The editorial board or an editor of the Fargo Forum called the activities at the courthouse milquetoast. And I don't think that's true. I think we're more dynamic than that. I think it's incredibly complex. It might be mundane to some, but what we do is incredibly complex, and to understand that takes time. It's hard to show up at one meeting and understand everything that's going on. So the more things we do like this, our engagement the county's done in the past hasn't been ideal, but we're getting better. We now have a communications officer. We're doing things like this, making ourselves available to the radio, the TV, media at large. Whenever they have questions, we make ourselves more available than we did in the past. So informing and educating. And it's not just the people that live here. So I'm born and bred in Fargo, lived here my whole life, but Cass County represents roughly 20% of the population, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, depending on what's going on in the Bakken. We have friends out west that work the oil wells, and when they're there, they're there. When there's no oil wells being drilled, they move along. So that 1 in 5 number is a good number to start with. Plus, we have roughly 3,000 to 5,000 people every year that move to Cass County. New visitors and new friends, people from other states, other cities, foreign lands. They don't know what the county does either, and we need to tell our story. There are 3,141 counties in the United States of America. Cass County is one of them, one of 53 in the state of North Dakota. I'm involved in the National Association of Counties, and one of the things we say there is when you've seen one county, you've seen them all. No, what we say is when we see one county, you've seen one county. We tend to be a hodgepodge of a collection of activities and assignments that no one else either wants to do or has taken upon themselves to do. Some of us do educational departments. The city of Indianapolis has no mayor. They have no city council. They're run by Marion County. There is a mayor of Marion County, but they have no city commission. Clark County has no police. Las Vegas has no police force. Clark County is the police force for Las Vegas. It sort of evolves as to what the community thinks we need to do. It's more than just the courthouse. So I think with that, the message is again to educate and inform. Also to show off our 483 employees that we have in Cass County, to talk about the things they've done. And that's what we're going to go through today. Pretty much the missions they've accomplished over the last year, some educational aspects too, of course, in terms of where we are financially and things like that. But really, we need to tout our employees and cheer our department heads and leadership here that we have. We have amazing teams here. We don't laud them enough. We don't commend them enough. So that's part of our message today too. So with that, I think I'm just going to jump into it. We'll start with our county finance office. So with COVID, everything is a bit more dynamic. It's myself, my administrator, IT director, and communication officer here in the courtroom, or in the county commission room. And I get to run my slideshow. I'm supposed to be able to run it here, and I'm not able to pan back and forth. There we go. Let's start with the county finance office. What you're going to see, and I'm not going to read these slides because that's the death by PowerPoint is not what anybody wants to have transpire during this presentation. So I'll just touch on a number of things. You can see the general budget revenues over the last years. Financially, the state of the county is good. We have increasing sales taxes, which is remarkable. None of us were anticipating that with COVID. We have increasing property values. We have increasing wage rates. Everything is getting better, even going through what we've been going through. And that doesn't discount the pains and suffering that business owners, that employees, that our friends and teachers are going through right now, students for that matter. But generally speaking, from the financial position of the county, we're good. County tax rates are the important thing to talk about. So let me back up. So in the last year, there's been a transition. We've merged the treasurer's office and the auditor's office. That merger created the finance office. The action streamlined both the operations and created savings, increased efficiencies that will benefit Cass County from years to come. These are the people that also run our elections, and I'll get to that in a minute too. And it's an amazing thing that we accomplished what we did. We had 6 vote centers. We had a record turnout. And again, I'll get to that in a moment. So long story short, the financial overview. And here's what matters. Taxable valuation of the county has increased. So I've been elected the last 8 years. Since 2012, 1 mil used to represent about $600,000. That 1 mil, the rate of taxation, has now gone to almost $1 million. We're at $900,000. The mill levy has decreased over my years and in previous years too. So what we try to do is maintain a level rate of taxation, a predictable rate of taxation, so that when people like me, every law, every rule I pass, I have to live under, not law, but every regulation, every rate of taxation, I also have to live under, which is a great thing about a citizen legislature and representatives on the Cass County Commission. So everything we do affects us as well. So you've seen, as property valuations have increased, the mill levy has decreased, which is what should happen. We don't suddenly need an exponential more amount of money year over year. And this is the important slide here. The effective rate of taxation has fallen. So as valuations go up, the rate of taxation goes down, but we've maintained a stable rate. And that 1.29% in 2020 is the value measured against a $100,000 home. So you'll pay $1,290 on average. And that will vary a little bit between school districts, between cities, but for the most part, the rate of taxation has maintained a stable level rate. The election cycle, as I touched on briefly, 2020 was really the COVID election. You can see the numbers here. 36,000 absentee ballots were sent out, almost 31,000, well, 30,000 were returned. Record turnout, 85,900 people cast ballots. And we had 6 vote centers. And I think the evolution of the election this is the way to go, regardless of COVID. Vote centers, we've been trying to talk about this for a long time. We've not had the technology to implement it. Vote centers, if you didn't vote or you voted absentee, the vote center allows you to show up at any polling location and cast your vote. So if you work out by West Acres and that's more convenient for you, you can go there. If you work over in West Fargo, if you work in Castleton, there's vote centers where if you live in North Fargo and you work in Castleton, you can cast your vote in Castleton over lunch, over a break. And I think the access to voting is incredibly important. I think in-person voting is incredibly important. I spoke on this to no end on public media, where it's always been important for me, for my daughter and myself, to go vote when she's been cognizant of, be old enough to understand what a vote means. She's always been with me. She was with me again during this election, during early voting. And I think as time evolves, this is the way to do it. Vote centers throughout the county. So thank you to those of you that voted. Thank you to those of you who voted early. We can't thank our team enough, and I'll touch on that right now. So this election was much harder, not just for the voters at large, but for our staff to manage as well. The stress, the angst, the anxiety that all of us went through, from our auditor's office, people that run the election, again, our finance office, and our IT director, our IT team that's had to set everything up to make sure that your experience was timely and safe. We had an app, I don't know if you used it or not, we had an app that allowed you to check the time, the wait time between vote centers. It was just a remarkable thing we did, and I think that I'd like to think that other counties will mimic what we've done and replicate that success throughout the state. There were other places that did well too, but I think we did incredibly well here in Cass. Assessments. This has gotten a little bit more attention as time has gone by. Everything from the assessments down in Oxbow when I was first elected to the assessments in some of our smaller towns, the Horaces of the world. Here's where we stand right now with our assessor department. 2020 assessing office finalized the reappraisals of 15 townships in 1 city. This information should be available online in 2020. Residential and commercial building permits in 2020 have outpaced the last 4 years, with 2 months left to go. In the past 4 years, 90% of residential properties have been reviewed. 7,666 8,514. Why does that number matter? Well, specifically it matters because we want to make sure we have parity. We want to make sure that everyone's property county-wide is assessed fairly and equally. What does that do? That makes sure we're all sharing the burden proportionally. If your house is under assessed by $100,000, and the average home values in the Cass County area is roughly $229,000, the last number I heard. That number may vary a little bit, but if you're under assessed by $100,000, you're under assessed by 50% of the gross value of your neighbor's home. So that means they're then carrying more of a burden than they should be, and you're carrying less. So when we have that balancing act of creating parity, it's a good thing for all of us. So the sooner we get to all of those homes being assessed properly, the better it is for everyone. The recorder's office. I cannot tell you how busy they have been between the dynamic of 3% interest rates and refinancing, and home purchases never have really slowed down. They dipped a little bit from their peak, but for the most part, we're still flipping houses left and right. And again, as I mentioned prior, we have 3,000 to 5,000 people that move to Cass County every year. Those people need a place to live. 2020 has been a very busy year for the recorder's office, as I just said. Much of the work is because of low interest rates and property transactions and refinances. The office has also created efficiencies by providing better working environments for their employees and accepting payments for recorder fees by credit cards. One more slide, and again, I'm not going to read these through. Please go back. This will be available online. And when we get to the Sheriff's Department, you'll see a world of data. You will see any number of matrix that you'll want to investigate. Go back and read them when you have time. But the Recorder's Office is also responsible for the preservation of historic documents. And if you're ever really bored, we have books that are dating back 100 years, and it's incredible to see these things. It's incredible to look in these things and find out who owned a piece of property from 100, 200 years ago, not 200, but 100 plus years ago. We have an ongoing effort to digitize our records, update electronic filing procedures, and provide long-term environmentally controlled storage off-site to make sure our original documents, the books I just talked about, don't degrade. So again, read through this when you have a chance. Our Recorder's Office is an incredibly valuable piece of the county. Highway Department. So the Highway Department does more than the roads and bridges. The Highway Department takes care of our flooding. They take care of our signage. They take care of emergency measures on our roads and bridges. And again, look through some of the data points here. We're now down from building 1 million sandbags to 100,000. We deployed 25,000 in the last flood, but initial forecasts of the 2020 flood were less than ideal. For the most part, we got lucky again. Things worked out. Our friends outside the metro still went through a great deal of stress and worry. From sandbags to flood preparation, Cass was there to support them throughout. In the end, the flood impacts for most of us were less than 2019. But every flood, your county team spent time, your treasure, in preparation for the worst. In the coming years, the diversion will be completed, and that'll help both stress and cost. I'll talk about the diversion always as we get towards the end of the presentation, but know that again, your highway department doesn't just do lane striping and signage for you. This is the thing that I find most remarkable. In terms of highway bridges, we have 541 bridges in the county. Of those 541, 241 are longer than 20 feet. I think, if I'm going by memory here, I believe we're roughly 10% of the bridges in the entire state of North Dakota. A remarkable number when you consider that North Dakota is a pretty big place, and we have 10% of the bridges. The efficiency is key in maintaining such a large system. An example of replacing an aging wooded bridge, here's one you can look at right now on the slide, like this one, with a prefabricated modern bridge. The new bridge deck in Everest Township, set on existing bridge supports, is done at a significant cost savings. What we do in our highway department is amazing. It's innovation. And here is why that matters. In 2020, the highway department was recognized with the NACO, a National Association of Counties Award for Innovation, a new method of reconstructing roadways. The innovation, developed in-house by our engineers, team of county employees, saved taxpayers, this is a real number, people, saved nearly $12.5 million and significantly reduced the environmental impacts of the construction process. This was one of only 20 county achievement awards in the transportation category nationwide. Let that number sink in. Our team in your county highway department got one of 20 awards in the United States. And remember, there's 3,141 counties. Lots of people living all over the other states and counties. On one project alone that won this award, we saved roughly $12.5 million. And obviously that design will continue to be saved, to continue to have savings on all the other roads we're going to do. Counties throughout the nation will be utilizing this technique if it can work for them. It'll save tens of millions of dollars nationwide. This is innovation from your team. This is innovation from the Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo area. It's just remarkable. Again, I can't speak highly enough of the county employees and the teams we have here. Sheriff's Department. Remember what I said earlier regarding all the numbers and data? Here's that slide. There's a couple of them in a row. The Sheriff's Department has 225 employees, roughly half the county workforce. The office is busy. Several metrics are listed. An example, 2019, there were 17,000 service calls. In 2020, as of, I believe, October 1st, plus or minus, we're at 18,500. We're busy. Just because we've been slowed down and shut down because of COVID doesn't mean that law enforcement can take time off. It doesn't mean we can shut our courthouse and courts down. Slide 2. This is also important, and I'm going to touch on this in a number of different ways. We have partnerships throughout the county, within the GFM EDC, within dispatch, within in the FM Chamber of Commerce for that matter. When I was younger, we didn't have those relationships. Everyone operated out of a silo. And it always shocked me as a youth that we didn't combine ourselves into one big metro area like we do now. And this is one perfect example of what that unification has done, teaming across the river. Our task force, we're part of several task forces that have results that have directly impacted public safety in our community. We have the Metro Drug Task Force, Gang Task Force. We teamed up with the U.S. Marshals. It's what we should have been doing the whole time, and it's wonderful that we're doing it now. And the stronger our community is as a whole, the stronger our community will be. Here's more partnerships. Cass County has policing contracts with the city of Horace, Castleton, Kindred, and Mapleton. Law enforcement is about community policing, and our sheriff's office reaches out and engages the community whenever possible. The office also has school resource deputies, SROs. I guess SROs is easier, that's what I call them. Contacts with Central Cass, Kindred, Maple Valley, Northern Cass, and Mapleton. It's incredibly important that we have law enforcement within schools, not just for security, but for relationship building. And I don't think that's the case necessarily here in Cass County, but from what I've learned nationwide, there's no shortage of children that all their encounters are with police is negative. And the more they can interact with the police at a younger age and realize police are our friends, police are stabilizing force to make sure that we're safe, the better it is for all of us. And having school resource officers in the schools is a good thing. And again, someday, hopefully we don't ever have to encounter this, but someday should we ever have an incident where something bad happens in a school, I think it's a good thing that we have informed, trained professionals there to protect our children. Response challenges. Here's a slide showing the toys. Needful toys. Appropriate responses in the winter require appropriate equipment. In addition to adding pickups to the fleet, which you'll see in a moment too, we've got a plow blade, snowmobiles, and a UTV. Unfortunately, we have winter. And unfortunately, winter can be bad. And when winter's bad, it doesn't mean everyone sort of huddles in their home and gets along and everything goes perfectly well. It's time for responses, whether the weather is good or bad. We have to be there to make sure that our neighbors are safe, that we're safe, that our property is safe. So with that, we have added to our fleet the ability to get to your house in the rural areas or in town for that matter, if need be. You are going to notice some rebranding. This is the new look of our sheriff's vehicles. As I said, we're transitioning out of The SUVs, we'll still have some, don't misunderstand, but we're now adding more pickups to our fleet. The graphics are changing from the white and the brown to the silver and black. Transition is going to take about 5 years, and as we swap out vehicles, we're not going to change the whole fleet over. That wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for tax reasons, and frankly, the vehicles are brand new, so I don't know why you'd swap them out in some cases. But over about 5 years through attrition, we should be able to replace most of our fleet. So look for this new look coming to a street near you in the near future. Hand in hand with law enforcement is emergency management. Team that helps coordinate the response when the lights go out. They work both with state and local partners to ensure we're doing what we can to plan and respond to events outside of our control. Ongoing training is a big part of the work of the emergency management team. And again, you'll see we're led by Jim Prochniak and Amanda Johnson, and they're the ones that plan for the floods. They're the ones that plan for the tornadoes. They're the ones that plan for the things that none of us want to think about. What have they done this year? Big transition. We've transitioned away from the Code Red to the Everbridge system. And the Everbridge system, I think, is far more efficient. And I hope if you've not signed up for it, if you were part of Code Red and haven't transitioned over, you need to do that. Please do that. This is how we get information out to you. So Cass County Alerts by Everbridge was deployed in 2020. It has far more features and will better inform our citizens during times of emergencies. So again, if you haven't signed up for Everbridge, please do that now. If you're new to the county and didn't know what Red Alert, what the Code Red was, essentially it was just a message to your phone when something bad happened, a shelter in place or someone was lost. So now we're transitioning to a better system. Again, if you haven't signed up for it, please do. Emergencies. It's not been an easy year in Cass County. We didn't have a flood, but we sure prepared for it. We had riots downtown, something I never thought we'd see. We were ready for it. We did well. Our teams responded. And obviously we have COVID still going on. We'll get through it sooner or later. One way or another, we're going to get through it. So as part of that, our emergency response team has been there hand in hand, working with other local jurisdictions, working with our department heads, working with our team within the courthouse to make sure we can maintain services and do our jobs effectively for you. Human services, formerly social services. So I'm going to buzz through these slides. There's a lot to absorb here, I tell you. So what happened was the state took over Cass County Social Services and became a zone. I'm going to touch on a couple things very quickly, and I'll buzz through these slides. Primarily impacting human services, the Cass County Social Services redesign took place in the last year, and we're still transitioning more formally, recreating the board to the board makeup to what it's going to be. All counties statewide transitioned to human service zones effective January 2020. Cass County is one of the 19 human service zones that was formed. And some counties didn't have the critical mass like we do here in Cass, so they had to join hand in hand with neighboring counties, associated counties. And luckily for us, we're big enough where we got to do ours alone. Cass County Human Services Zone is one of 4 single county zones in the state due to its geographical area and population. Cass County consists of approximately 1,768 square miles, 83% of the population residing within the urban areas of Fargo and West Fargo. Land mass of approximately 64 square miles. We have an estimated population of 182,000 people. This represents 23.8% of the population. As I touched on this prior, depends on where the Bakken sits, but good rule of thumb, easy to remember, 1 in 5. The Cass County Human Services Zone, is committed to collaborating with regional zones to build stronger interzonal partnerships and ensure accessible and equitable human services to all North Dakotans. So you'll see 16 of our employees actually transitioned to state positions. We do more than food stamps. This is one of these situations where it's hard to explain what social services does. It's the building across the street to the west of the courthouse. We do remarkable things there. We are there when everyone needs help. We are there whether it's food assistance, lighting, heating, whether it's helping you transition from one family circumstance to another. We're there to support you. And that's our job, and we're good at it. We're going to still be active in redesign efforts, and obviously, like I said, the partnerships. We've done our best to make sure that not only we're Cass focused, but obviously with roughly 30,000 people that commute to Cass County every day, we have a natural relationship with our neighbors, with our county neighbors, people like Trail, people like Clay across the river in Minnesota. And we're going to try to work with them as best we can to make sure their needs are taken care of as well. Veteran service offices. I'm going to skip one slide, then I'm going to go back to this. This is the important number. Within the VSO, it's hard for people to understand. If you don't have a veteran in your family and you don't have a friend that's a veteran, it's hard to understand what they've gone through, whether it's PTSD, whether it's simply an injury that happened when they were deployed or not deployed. One of the first places you stop should be your county courthouse. And you can see some numbers here regarding our contacts. And it's an incredibly good service. This is a service they've earned. So first, a belated Happy Veterans Day and a sincere thank you to those of you that served. Our Veteran Service Office should be one of the first stops for all county veterans for accessing the services they've earned. If you are a veteran, come to the courthouse. If you are a veteran, you are eligible to receive services. And our VSO's office does a wonderful job helping you get there. Now I'm going to jump back to this. These are 3 stories from our VSOs, our VSO team within our courthouse. These stories are just a couple, and I'm guaranteeing you, every veteran that walks through our door has a story to tell. Every veteran, my whole family's veterans. I'm one of the few males that didn't serve in the military. There are stories that are good and bad. These are stories of us helping the people that needed help. Again, we do good work. If you need help, please show up. You've earned these things. Cass County weed control. I was going to say the word Palmer amaranth, and I just did. That was my mission to say that, and I didn't mispronounce it. Weed control. Control of noxious weeds is a big concern and a county responsibility. In 2020, the county sprayed over, listen to these numbers, 8,500 acres and 7,000 miles of road ditches. We are the people in control of making sure the weeds don't spread. It's more than just dandelions. It's the toxic weeds, like I said, the Palmer, that once it establishes itself, it's not going away. And if you're really bored or fascinated, pick your word, with Palmer, watch some videos online about how this weed spreads. It's ridiculous how quickly this thing grows and how invasive it is. So our team, Cass County Weed Control, is responsible for trying to prevent that from showing up in your backyard or your field. Weed control is more about outreach and prevention than enforcement, but at times all 3 are necessary. Failure to control noxious weeds can have devastating consequences on producers. So again, here's some of the trivial things. And again, please read through these when you have a chance. But what our weed control team does is remarkable. And again, you've got this short window of time in our summer where you don't have a lot of time to address these things. So getting them out, getting them active, and thank you to those folks that show up for part-time jobs in the summer with this, and then vector control, and I'll touch on vector later too, but that show up and help us out and make sure that these weeds are taken care of. NDSU extension. This is one of the best lines I have in this presentation. Extension is one of the great and often overlooked partnerships counties have with land-grant universities, including NDSU. I promise you, most everyone has no idea what NDSU extension does. I didn't before I was involved in the county. And then when I was elected, I learned even more. But it's more than just 4-H. It's more than just teaching how to have a child raise a cow. It's incredibly valuable. Our partnerships with NDSU, our partnerships between Extension and our social services department are incredible. They do things like food and nutrition, parenting, crops, as the slides read. And look at the numbers of people they interact with. And the big number, that's other correspondence and We communicate with people in any number of different ways to get our message out. And these are real numbers. Direct education. This number shocked me. I realized that we had a lot of people doing a lot of good work, but I never realized how much they engage with individuals in terms of this number, 12,259 people, participants. And it actually accelerated with COVID. And you can see the number with the face-to-face proportion versus the online. The online number, as people were locked up in their homes for COVID, accelerated, which is a good thing. We went from having young kids coming in for cooking classes to doing them online. You'd pick up your packet of ingredients at the courthouse and you'd bring it back to your kid, or your kid could come in and get it. But bring it back and you'd prepare it at your house, which I think is just a wonderful thing. It's innovation. It's rethinking the programming. It's rethinking how we can accomplish the mission that we have at hand. So through a combination of face-to-face and online learning, Cass County Extension has reached more than 12,000 people just in the last year. Coroner's office. We have a coroner. We have an office. We're one of the few counties in the state of North Dakota that has a formal coroner's office set up. And again, I think that's due to the fact that we're roughly 1 in 5 of the people in the state of North Dakota. So you can see we have a full-time dedicated staff. We have drivers. We have a full office down in South Fargo, the old Sunmart building, teamed up next to our friends at Fargo Cass Public Health. So we have 2 full-time coroner, deputy coroner, and 2 part-time death investigators. The office again, Fargo Cass Public Health building. And this was a transition year. I'm sure if you've been around the Fargo-Moorhead area and if you've been involved in government, you've heard the name Dr. Baird. Dr. John Baird retired in August 2020. Our new coroner is Christy Ross. She was just appointed in October. To Dr. Baird, I want to say thank you. He worked for darn near everybody in the city and the region and helped us out immensely in terms of getting this coroner's office established, getting it credible, getting it organized, and allowing Ms. Ross to take over and to hopefully make her job that much easier. Here's our statistics. Tough ones to see. This is a city that I grew up in and I never had to worry about these things. You had a murder every now and then, but as we grow, things change. 11 deaths in Cass County. Some of these cases reflect injuries that occur in Minnesota but die in the hospital in Cass County. 7 homicides have occurred in Cass County as of today. All of the homicide victims were men. 430 cases listed as statistics through October 31st, 2020. As of today, 593 cases have been reviewed by the Cass County Coroner's Office. Autopsies are performed in Grand Forks at the UND Forensic and Autopsy Services area. The medical examiners are under the supervision of the state medical examiner, and they cover the eastern portion of North Dakota. So thank you to that team for doing what I can't even imagine is an immeasurably difficult job. Internet technology. This is the team that allows everything that you've seen before to stay open and work. This year, IT has carried a big load, enabling nearly half the non-sheriff's department county workforce to work remotely. Say that again. Half of us are working remotely. As a reminder, your courthouse never shut down. Your courthouse maintained operations. And without the team we have in IT, that would not have been possible. We've been lucky. Will we have a breakout? Possibly. I hope not. But we've done our best to mitigate that. And we've done our best to maintain our operations and make sure that we can provide the services that you've come to expect, that you pay for and that you deserve. And our IT team is a big part of that. The office provided secure connectivity for elections activities in the 6 vote centers, as discussed before, both on elections day and early voting leading up to that day. They also maintain our GIS system, providing significant information internally to the public about property, parcel, and tax information. Again, some data points to take a peek at. This is a breakdown of a variety of the services provided. The single biggest category is desktop services, and I think, like I said, that goes hand in hand with getting our team working remotely. It allows the rest of the county government to do our jobs without worrying about the computer and network issues. Without IT, whether you work out of your house or whether you work at an office or whether you work at IBM, without the people that can make the computers work, you may as well shut down. GIS requests. Administration office. This is the leadership team that you had. Great picture of Captain Freubig. Love that. This is the team that you had taking care of us during the pandemic. We're tracking, implementing progress of county strategic plan as well in 2019. We had a meeting amongst our employees. So as part of this really isn't on my script, so I'm going to do my best here to address this. We had within our administrative office a meeting of all our employees, and it's incredibly important that we engage our team, not just the leadership portion of our team, but the staff level too, because everyone's views matter. Everyone has a vested interest in how the county evolves, whether you've just started here, you've been here 20 years, whether you're a department head or whether you're an employee. So with that, we create a strategic plan, and the strategic plan is one of the reasons why we have our communications officer. We found a void, we found a lack of communicating internally as well as externally. So we've implemented the strategic plan or parts of it. One of the biggest worries I had when it started was you create these plans and you could go to any organization, any government agency, and you've got plans that have been created, and you wind up with a book on a shelf that you look at every 5 years and go, boy, we really should do something about that. Then you redo that plan in anticipation of doing something someday. That's not what we've done. We have been proactive. We created the plan and are implementing the plan. And part of that was, frankly, pay raises. With the rising tide, all ships being lifted, we found that the low tier staff level pay wasn't high enough. When you have a Burger King and you have a McDonald's up in North Fargo where I live on 19th Avenue by the Fargo Dome, they're advertising a $12 or $13 an hour wage plus a $500 sign-on bonus. Plus they give you a uniform and you get meals at a discount. It's a pretty good deal. It's pretty tough to hire employees at $10 an hour when you get a free meal and a uniform. So we had to adjust when we did. And I think that's for the positive. We're reviewing CARES Act funding, and you'll see one of the big ticket items we did was we evolved the first floor north side of our courthouse. And some of the pictures on this slide, you'll see it's what probably should have been done years ago. We've modernized everything. We've gotten things taken care of to the degree where now we have handicapped accessible countertops. We have better staff accessibility. We have better technology. So it's evolution that, again, was a needful thing. We have a park. I promise you, very few of you, unless you're an avid fisherman, know we even have a park. And again, look at the numbers. We're accelerating. I think COVID helped a little bit with us not being able to go to the restaurants and go out and about. It helped us get up to about 1,500 people showing up and camping on site. That's not the users of the site. That's people that went out and actually stayed overnight. That's a good number. And the important number there too to follow with that is the county general fund is only $20,000. That's our transfer to operate this. And really what that goes to is that's the camp hosts, basic maintenance. This park doesn't cost us any money. It's almost a zero cost line item. And again, this doesn't include all the people that simply went out to be at the park, to swim, to fish, just to get out of town for the day. These are the people that stayed overnight. And again, here's a breakdown of costs. And I think we can see that I think we're doing well. I think it's a good thing. It's a needful thing, like I've said before. So we have a park, use the park. It's your park, it's not mine, it's ours. And seeing how minimal expense we have in that park is an incredibly good thing. share comments. That's me. COVID, remote working. As I said prior, we have roughly 60% of our staff, a little bit over 50%, I think it was almost 60% of our staff that were able to work remotely. And it's an incredible source of pride for me personally to say that we left this courthouse open and operational. We've evolved. So we had appointments only. We had people showing up only when scheduled. We had people wearing masks like we do now. We all have our mask mandate. But prior to that, we still wore masks at the courthouse prior to the mandate, be it Fargo City or be it the governor's office. We need to keep doing our job for you. And our staff has been more than tolerant. You think working at home is going to be easy. I'm self-employed. I worked out of my house for years. If you've not had that experience, working from your house is hard. With all the distractions and still getting your job done, it's hard. Much easier said than done. So kudos to our staff and our leadership to keep the jobs at hand productive and efficient. We're doing meetings like we have now. So the silver lining, I always like to see silver linings. The silver linings are things like this. So this technology we were close to achieving here in the Cass County Courthouse. And by that I mean you can watch us live and you can see our meetings live, log on simply by calling in or logging into a Teams meeting. But we weren't there yet. Well, now we are. Again, talking about the communications and accessibility. We simply recorded things before, posted them online, but now you can log in and watch us live like we are right now. That is a silver lining. That is a good thing. The easier we are to see, the easier are we to connect with, the better for all of us. We've also strengthened our relationship with other local partners. I know my mayor's better than I thought I ever would. And that's just not me. That's the rest of the county commission. That's the rest of the city commissions for that matter. Sometimes we don't even know their names. Well, now we know where they live, their kids' names, what they do for a living, kind of cars they drive. And that's a good thing. The closer we are to our friends, and this is our friends in Clay County too. We're one big community. We're one big metro area. I was out west, and to share, some people maybe know this, some people don't, but I was shocked. I'm out west talking to people, and one of the interactions I had was a sheriff asking, Fargo's what, 65,000 people now, I think, right? They don't have a sense of scale, and it doesn't make us better. It doesn't make Cass County better. It just makes us different. We have a different set of needs. We have a different set of interactions that we have to have with our local partners. And through COVID and the floods, we've gotten closer every year to being one unified message, one unified voice. And I think that's a good thing. We don't always agree, but in the end, we can agree to disagree in some cases. We can agree that the end goal for the public at large should be our mission and a positive end goal. The Diversion Authority, WIFIA, that loan to the Diversion Authority of roughly I think it's going to be 1% plus or minus, is going to save local taxpayers, you and me, roughly $600 million. And what it is, it's a federal loan program. We are very close to getting that tied down. $600 million in savings simply on interest. You'll also see recently in the news a settlement with our friends to our south, and it's a big number. We talked about $75 million. But that number was always in the budget. It was just less. It wasn't a remarkable discovery that we'd have impacts to our friends down south. We knew that. We've known that for years. It was a debate of how much it was. That's simply it. It's not that it's something new. It's something that has always been there. It's a debate of how much it was. And I think with that settlement, it allows us to proceed. It allows us to address some really hard issues that are tough to talk about, impacting negatively our neighbors. And that's always a struggle because there aren't all winners in this. There are losers here. And if you have a farmstead, if you have a farm field that your parents owned, that's an impact to you. And we need to make sure those people are treated fairly. And that's part of what this was. That'll tie in to 2 points from now, but the criminal justice challenges and opportunities. I think that, let me start here. So with the COVID grant, we're going to be receiving federal government through the state government. It's going to allow us to transition how we do intake at our jail. Yesterday, we made a decision that reinforced something I think we were going to do regardless, but reformulating how we do intake at our jail. And the important part about that is that no matter what law enforcement agency you work for, you're going to wind up at that intake portion of our jail, whether you're a marshal, whether you're from Cass County Deputy's Cass County Sheriff's Office, your deputy, if you're Fargo PD, West Fargo PD, or someone remotely coming in, that's where all the transition takes place within our jail. That's where we intake all of our customers. The evolution of that design will help prevent COVID from being spread. If you think about this pinch point being the spot where we have the most risk, where suddenly everyone in law enforcement could get infected, it's less than ideal. So an evolution there. We're also rethinking, in some cases, how we do corrections, and myself really. I think that's the opportunities. We can look at the pretrial services. We can look at any number of other solutions, like we have community observation units where we have people that don't need to be in jail necessarily. They're no harm to themselves, no harm to their community. They simply made a bad choice, and putting them in jail for 30 days isn't going to help them. It's going to cost them their job, cost them their family, maybe even cost them their house if they can't make a house payment. So it does two things. First of all, it gets the people that probably shouldn't be in jail out of jail, but still monitored to make sure we're safe. But to me, the more important part is it makes room in my jail for the people that need to be in jail, the violent offenders, those that are a threat to themselves, to you, your neighbors, property. We need to make sure that we have room in our jail for the people that would do us harm. Upcoming legislative session. We always have had a good working relationship with our Cass County legislators. We've had a good working relationship with our friends in Bismarck, be it governor's office, AG's office, whoever, other legislators from around the state. We've always had a wonderful working relationship, and we look forward to growing that relationship. And I think it's going to be an interesting thing as they evolve through COVID. What will testimony look like? What will the legislative session turn out to be? We'll all look and see. We'll be trying to meet with our legislators next month and bringing them up to speed on some of our concerns, things like the diversion funding, things like corrections funding, things like social services, the zone board. And like I said, we've always had a good working relationship with our friends in Bismarck. So with that, thank you. I was trying to not get to an hour. I thought I could do this much faster. My apologies for those of you that have been hanging on. So again, thank you to the department heads. Thank you to everyone who helped me put this together. My county commission coordinator, Catlin, for designing and building the PowerPoint, IT Director Terry Schmaltz for assisting in, as I said, not just this, but everything else up until now. Thank you to everyone in Cass County that entrusts the team in your courthouse, not just commissioners, but the department heads, the staff, the whole team that makes things go. Thank you. Thank you to our partners at the GFM EDC. Thank you to our partners at the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to our partners in places like the Homeward Animal Shelter, the state or the county fairgrounds, all the people that we relate with and sometimes even help fund, make this county whole, make us a family. And I think it's so incredibly important. I keep saying that phrase because it is so incredibly important that we get information about what the county does, about what we can do for you, about what you pay for, about what the services you deserve if you need them. It's incredibly important to get that message out and to convey to you again. Thank you. And I think I'll stop there. Appreciate your time. Please review some of the slides we've had. This will be online at a later date. And if you have any questions, never hesitate to call the county courthouse. Ask us for input, share your input. Please call us and share with us your thoughts on what we have going forward. And again, thank you, and I appreciate your time.